that in mind, and again, that's a benefit from having people speaking directly in the microphone. In keeping with that, also, some of our colleagues from the Joint Program on Survey Methodology, we're delighted that they're going to be serving to synthesize a lot of material here today based on the recording, based on the notes that they're taking here, as well as the slides that we're seeing presented. And we'll be posting the resulting reports that we have online. So, again, a good supplement of information. And we're getting a message from somebody on WebEx saying cannot hear anything. So let's stop at this point and ask all of the WebEx participants. If you are a WebEx participant and you cannot, please go ahead and send Wendy Martinez a note about that. And conversely, if you are on WebEx and you can hear, please send a note for that as well. Okay. Okay, we may have been, I may have been muted up here. I'll get out of your way.
No, I was just, yeah. Can you just try to speak, like, really into this?
Okay, speak jointly into the Polycom as well as the local microphone. Okay, we'll do that. Two other points on logistics before we start the formalities. One is, for those of you who are not familiar with the BLS Conference Center, restrooms are through the door on my right, the audience left here, through there, through the auditorium, and then immediately to the left. In addition, we are profoundly grateful to the BLS Conference Center for providing the space to us for these workshops for free. The BLS Conference Center staff worked very, very hard to keep this space, Catherine's smiling. This is a usual reminder we always have in this space. Worked very, very hard to keep this space clean. Part of that is please do not have any food in here. You may have a beverage as long as you have it covered, like Keenan has with his coffee right now, but do please be sure to keep that covered. We have a BLS cafeteria upstairs. Feel free to go there and have anything you would like, either during a break or during the lunch period. We have 75 minutes for our lunch period. There's also, for those of you who are not familiar with the area, a very wide range of very nice restaurants over in Union Station. You're welcome to go over there. If you do depart, be sure to take your wallet and your laptop with you as you go to be sure that you don't have any problems with that. Final point on logistics. Final point on logistics is we do want to be sure to thank the BLS Conference Center staff for their very, very hard work in ensuring that we have a really nice setup here, as well as the electronic connections and everything else. Are there any questions on logistics before we go on? Okay. Say just a couple of words in terms of introduction for the content of this. We're delighted that everybody's here. General background for all three of our workshops that we're having on transparent reporting on data quality arose from a series of developments that we've been seeing in the federal statistics system over the last few years. Traditionally, our system was based primarily on sample surveys, although we always had some exceptions to that. A good example of this is the quarterly census of employment and wages based on unemployment insurance records that the Bureau of Labor Statistics has had for many decades. But historically, most of our work had been focused on sample surveys, but over the last decade or so, we've seen an increasing degree of use of sources of information that are not from traditional sample surveys. And as we think in depth about using those sources, or in many cases integrating several of those sources, sometimes with traditional sample surveys, we have a wonderful set of opportunities related to using that integrated set of information to improve the profile of quality, risk, and cost that we have for our current products, and also to provide a very substantial expansion of our statistical portfolio. In some cases, for example, by expanding our products by providing additional levels of either temporal or cross-sectional granularity. In other cases, providing an entirely different set of statistical information products and services that we, for all practical purposes, could never produce based only on a sample survey source. So it's a wonderful set of opportunities that we have. And in parallel with that, we have a really good opportunity to step back and get additional clarity on what we're trying to accomplish with all of our production of statistical information, and thinking in depth in particular about the predominant features that we have for the quality of our information that we're providing to our stakeholders. And as a result of that, we're having 3 workshops that are sponsored jointly by the Washington Statistical Society and the Federal Committee on Statistical Methodology. First one took place on December 1st regarding input data quality, and Chris Chapman will be giving a recap of that workshop in just a moment. Second, today, we have a really interesting workshop coming up on the processing quality. And Joe Schaefer is going to be giving some comments on that again in a few minutes. And then finally, on February 26th, Linda Young is organizing what promises to be a wonderful third workshop that synthesizes all of what we have been thinking about for the first 2 workshops, but with a special focus on looking at output data quality. So Linda is not going to have a chance to speak today, so maybe she can stand up and we can thank her also for what she's going to be doing in a month. So those are the 3 general areas. For each one of these workshops, we have 2 overarching questions. The first one centers on fitness for use of the data that we have. What can we say to our data users about the most important quality features of, again, our input data sources, our processing work, and our output data sources? And what in particular should we be conveying to them as they think about whether to use a particular source or a particular process or a particular output data product? And then second, at a more nuanced or refined level, what do they need to know when they are in fact then thinking about, with use of that data source, what can I understand about both the strengths and the limitations that are always inherent in any source of statistical information that we're considering? And then second, closely related to that, once we have a clear vision of that, how do we go about communicating those results to a wide range of stakeholders that include both technical specialists, like everybody that we here have participating in our workshop today, as well as people who are focused primarily on a particular substantive use of our data. And then third, the general public, the press, media, and also general data users. How do we communicate with all those? They're very distinct audiences. They have different ways in which we can and should be communicating with them. How do we get these ideas across in the most effective way for each of those audiences? So in closing, I'd like to say welcome, thanks to everybody, and we'll turn things over to Chris Chapman to give a quick recap of workshop number 1.